I'll just face this way. Maybe I don't know. Okay, I cannot. Okay, I'll try. Where are we? So the goal of game theory is to find the optimal strategy, right? But however, the optimal is hard to define. Sometimes we see what is optimal. Sometimes it's not so clear what is optimal. So we'll see some special points. It may not be optimal, but it has other desirable properties. Okay. Okay. So let's use a simple example to illustrate these terms, right? Players, strategies, payoffs, and so on and so forth. Okay. So the example is a very naive example called matching pennies, right? So we have two players. Okay, so player 1, player 2. So that's our set of players. And each player has two strategies or two moves, right? So matching pennies, you have pennies a coin, right? So you have a coin and you show each other the coin. So each player has two strategies. Either you play head or tail, right? You show the other person the coin in your hand, whether it's head or tail. Okay, so this is the two possible moves, whether it's H or it's T. Okay, so now for a given game, each player select one of the strategies, right? Either you play head or you play tail. Now for each collection of strategy chosen, so the fancy name is the strategy profile. So in this case, the collection of strategies will be either HH, which is matching, or TT, also matching, or the other case is non-matching. So it's HT or TH, right? So the collection of strategies are called the strategy profiles, right? So for each profile, like HH or TT or HT or TH, we have a known payoff, right? So you are playing games, you make some small bet, right? So we have a known payoff for each player. So the payoff usually, so the situation can be represented by a matrix. So we are going to see lots and lots of payoff matrices. Okay. So in the game of this matching pennies, we have this. So we have player 1, player 2. Each of them can, okay. So the player 1 is called a role player, right? So his move is you should read his move by this row, first row and second row. So the first row will represent player 1's move by playing H, right? And the second row is his move playing T. Okay. Now, similarly for player 2, so he is a column player. So his move, he'll either choose H or T. So if he chooses H, the payoff you should read from the first column, and otherwise you should read from the second column. Okay, so now in the matrix or in a table like this, these numbers representing the bet, right? You win or you lose. So each entry of the matrix records the payoff for players, player 1, player 2. So the first component is for the role player, is for player 1. The second component is for the column player, for player 2. Right? So it takes a few minutes to get used to this matrix, but once you understand it, it is quite natural. Okay. So let's look at the example. So in the example of matching pennies, the top left, for example, let's look at this entry, right? This entry actually stands for player 1 played H, player 2 also played H, right? So you have this matching situation, HH. Now, player 1, in this case, player 1 will win. So he will get $1, for example. So the first one here stands for if this happens, if the profile is HH, then player 1 will get $1, right? Now player 2 will lose $1. So if you read the second component, so that is the payoff for player 2. So it is -1. He loses, right? So this is quite natural. Now let's look at one more, and then we move on. So for example, let's look at here. So the situation, if player 1 play H, player 2 play T. In this case, the coin doesn't match. So according to the rule, player 2 will win, right? So if you read the payoff here, player 1 will lose because his payoff is -1. And player 2 wins, so player 2 gets $1, right? So this is very easy. Okay. So I guess this example shows these ingredients, right? So we have two players, and assume they are rational or whatever, and then they can make two moves, and then so they make their move. For each collection of their moves, you know how much they get or how much they lose. So that's the setup. Now we are we are on our journey to see whether there is a best way to play. Okay, so the answer will be at the end. Actually, for this simple game, the answer is not so easy. Okay, so in the next 1 hour, I'm going to talk about games. So I probably will mention some terminology, some big words. So let me anticipate some big words here. So we are going to look at various different games, right? So some games are called partial conflict game, and this is in contrast with total conflict game. Okay, so maybe let's start from the total conflict game. This is the zero-sum game, right? So it means the sum of the payoffs are zero, right? For example, this is a zero-sum game. If you look at the sum of the payoff at each entry, you get 0, right? So player 1 will win the amount that player 2 lose, and the same for the other possibilities, right? Player 2 will win whatever the amount player 1 loses. So the sum is 0. So this is total conflict, right? So this is an example of total conflict game. So the sum of payoff of the players are 0. So that's the situation. Now, how about partial conflict game? So the sum may not be 0. For example, the sum could be, I don't know, 5. So it's possible that both players gain something, right? So this is a more general setting. So the players doesn't need to be against each other. They can make cooperations and they do things together and so on and so forth, right? So that's partial conflict. So this is also called variable sum. So the sum may not be 0, may not be the same, and so on and so forth. Okay. So the sum of payoffs to the players can vary and can be positive or negative, and so on and so forth. Okay. The next two items are related. So we are talking about moves, strategies. So there's something called pure strategy and something called mixed strategy. For pure strategy, it means there's no probability. So for example, the strategy, whether you play head or play tail, there's no probability involved yet, right? So that's pure strategy. Now, after 1 hour, we will talk about mixed strategy. So the strategies not only involve those pure moves, but it also involves some probability. Like I play this move with probability P, right, and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are some terminology I may mention. Okay. All right, so now in the introductory, I said optimal is hard to define. Actually, you can define optimal, but it's quite involved. But in game theory, very often we look at, instead of looking at optimal, we look at something called equilibrium. So typically, it's called Nash equilibrium. So the definition goes as this. So suppose we have n players, right? Well, n always 2, right? So suppose we have several players. Now you have, then every player has one strategy. So you have n tuple of strategies, right? So we say that the n tuple of strategies is in Nash equilibrium if one player, suppose one player departs from this strategy, while other players remains. And then the player who move out will lose, will get punished. Let me read it. So if one player is departing from it, while the others remain faithful to it, results in punishment for the straying player. We'll see lots of examples. Okay. So in other words, maybe this is easier. So in a state of this game, at which no one has the incentive to change her strategy. So a profile is in a Nash equilibrium if no one wants to move away from the current state. Because if he moves away, other people do not change their strategy, he gets worse. So there's no incentive for him to move. Okay, so a Nash equilibrium may or may not be optimal. Again, we are going to see examples. But nevertheless, this equilibrium is a very, very important concept in game theory and also in economics. Okay, so Nash, this is the person who gave the equilibrium the name, John Nash. He passed away not long ago. So he gave the name to the equilibrium because he showed this theorem. So every game with finite many players, each with finite many strategies has a Nash equilibrium and is in mixed strategies. So you can always, the Nash equilibrium always exists. Okay. So he proved his theorem in his 1950 PhD thesis, and he received Nobel Prize in economics. And but he's a mathematician, and actually I heard people saying that he's not satisfied only get this Nobel Prize in economics. He wants to get some prize in mathematics, but indeed he got it. He got this Abel Prize in mathematics in 2015. So Abel Prize has a very short history. I think maybe I forgot the exact date, but probably set up only after 2010 or something. So it's a relatively new. So because, as you know, Nobel Prize has no mathematics prize. So people suggest to use Abel Prize to replace it. But because it has a very short history, so it's not as famous as Nobel Prize. So John Nash get Abel Prize in 2015. Unfortunately, on the return journey, he has a car accident. And then his life finished at 2015. Is that a question? No. Okay, so, and there's a film about him, right? The Beautiful Mind or Beautiful Life? Beautiful Mind, right? So about John Nash. And okay, so now let's look at some examples. So these examples are in this category, variable sum games. And in each of the situations, we want to find whether there is a Nash equilibrium or there's no, or there's more than one. Okay. So we are going to see some examples of Nash equilibriums as NE, call it NE. So The next few examples are a variation of the same theme. So under this form, in this form, you can play lots of variations. So the general form of these examples are like this. So of course we have player 1, player 2. Each player has 2 moves, but however the payoffs are in this form. So if both of them play the move 1, they get AA. So and if both of them play move 2, they get the payoff is the same, D and D. But however, if one person make move 1, the other one make move 2, you get the variation BC or CB. Okay. So these A, B, C, D are numbers. So if you change the number, the relative position, right? If you set A is less than D and D is less than B or something, then you get one situation. If you change the payoff, then you get another situation. Right? This is quite natural, right? Because people try to maximize the payoff. So if you change the payoff, then of course they change their strategies accordingly, right? So in the next 4 or 5 examples, it's all in this category, okay? And also this is these are examples of variable sum games because you see the sum may not be the same, right? So, okay, so the first example is this. So it's called game of chicken, or so there are 2 cars driving against each other, and so it tests who is going to make a turn, right? So the setup is this: there are 2 drivers, and they move like this, and the strategy available to them is either they swerve or they continue. Okay. The payoff matrix is like this. So if both of them swerve, then they get 0, right? Now if both of them continue, well, you know what happens, right? So both of them get negative infinity, or you can place a very, very large negative number here, like negative 2019 is probably enough. So you get some very, very negative. Now if one person continue, the other person swerve, then the guy who continues get the advantage, right? Because he will get reward 1 because he just drives through. Then the other one has to make ways to him, so the other one will get negative 1. Okay, and same for here. Suppose the first driver swerve, the second driver continue, and then the payoff is the first driver get negative 1, right? And the second driver get 1. Okay, so is the setup okay? Right, simple, right? So, okay, so is there a question for you? Is there a Nash equilibrium? Is there a situation where people has no incentive to move away from this? Okay, so we'll see. Okay, so let's do it slowly. So I duplicate the matrix, the payoff matrix for you here. So we are in the same situation. Now there are only 4 items. So let's look at them one by one to see whether one of them is the Nash equilibrium. Okay, so is swerve a Nash equilibrium? Okay, so the answer, okay, so for example, look at driver 1. So if driver 1 decided to move away, say, give up this strategy, he changed from swerve to continue, does he gain? Well, if he make this move, the other guy stays, right? And then we'll be in this situation, right? If driver 1 changes from swerve to continue, his payoff is better because the original payoff was 0. Now his payoff is 1, right? So this is not equilibrium because according to our definition, this position is NE if and only if if you move away, you get punished. But in this situation, if you move away, if driver 1 moves away, he gets reward. So it's not equilibrium. Okay? Is this all right? Okay. Now, how about this? Continue, continue. Is this a Nash equilibrium? Well, again, let's look at driver 1. So suppose driver 1 changed his strategy. So he changed from continue to swerve, right? Suppose originally they are here, right? But driver 1 decided to change to swerve. Now in this situation, his payoff, her payoff, is from negative infinity change to negative 1. So again, he get reward, right? So his payoff is better, much, much better. So therefore, this continue is not Nash equilibrium, right? Because by changing the strategy, driver 1 gets rewarded. The matrix was symmetric, so the same, more or less the same thing will happen for driver 2. Okay, so we ruled out the swerve, we ruled out continue. So there are 2 more items in this matrix. Let's look at them. So is continue swerve a Nash equilibrium? Okay, so continue swerve is here. Okay, so now suppose player 1 changed his strategy. He changed from continue to swerve. His payoff changed from 1 to 0. So he's worse, getting worse, right? Now, for driver 2, suppose we are in this situation, continue swerve. If driver 2 change his strategy, change from swerve to continue, his payoff change from -1 to -infinity, again getting worse, right? So this is a Nash equilibrium, right? So let me repeat the argument in the next slides, but the data are here, so that's why I say it first. Okay, so let's try. So we are looking at this profile, continue and swerve. So we want to know whether this is a Nash equilibrium. Okay, so I repeat the argument I said 2 minutes ago. So if driver 1 changes to swerve, then his payoff is worse than before, right? Because now he has 1. If he change, it becomes 0. So his payoff is worse. If player 2 changes from swerve to continue, his payoff is worse because he will get negative infinity. So he's getting worse. So this profile, continue swerve, is a Nash equilibrium, right? Because neither player would have any incentive to change the situation. Okay. Is this okay? So similarly, the other position, swerve continue, is also a Nash equilibrium because it's completely symmetric. Okay, so this is one situation. You can analyze the payoff. You can see in what, because we said this is A, D, D, and this B, C, C, B, right? So you can analyze in which situation things will happen like this. Okay, so that's that's our first example, the game of chicken. Right? Now we look at another example. So this example, we change the parameter, change the payoff, and then we'll get a different result. So again, this is a typical situation in game theory. So it's called a prisoner's lemma. Prisoner's lemma, dilemma. Sorry. Okay, so the setup is like this. There are 2 criminals or 2 suspects, A and B. So they are caught by police. So they are put in different rooms with no chance of communication. And the police give them the following choices. So they have the choices of either they confess or not confess, right? Okay, so here's the what they get offered. Okay, so each is offered the following deal. Okay, suppose you confess and the other guy doesn't confess, and then you go out for free. Then the other guy will get into jail for a very long time, like 20 years. Okay, so if you are good, the other one is bad, and then you go out and the other guy gets 20 years. Okay. Now the second possibility is both of you confess, right? And then both of you get like 8 years, whatever, in prison. Now if neither of you confess, and you will go to jail for 6 months for sort of lack of evidence. Well, this is just artificial examples, right? So the payoff matrix looks like this. Okay, let me repeat. So if both of you confess, both of you get 8 years in jail. So I put a negative sign because the bigger the number, the worse your payoff, right? So therefore, the negative sign stands for the punishment. It's not reward. Okay. Okay. So here, if both of you confess, both of you will get 8 years. Now, if one person confess, the other person not confess, and then the person who confess, for example, in this case, the player 1 confess, player 2 does not. Then player 1 get for free, get out for free, so it's 0, and player 2 get 20 years in jail, right? So this stands for that, and symmetrically the same thing happened if Mr. B confess and Mr. A not confess, the symmetric situation happens. Okay. Now, if both of you not confess, and then you get 6 months, right? So both of you get minus half year. Okay. So this is the payoff matrix. Okay. Now we ask, okay, what do you do? Or we ask the same question: is there a Nash equilibrium? Or so we ask things like this. Okay. Okay. So now we are. Every player is rational. So let's see how they reason. So here is how Mr. A or criminal A reason. So okay. Let me go back to this. Okay. So here's Mr. A's reasoning. So there are two possibilities of Mr. B, right? So Mr. B could confess or Mr. B could not confess. Okay. So the first case is Mr. B confess. Okay. In the case that Mr. B confess, what should Mr. A do? Well, look at these payoff. If Mr. A does not confess, he'll get 20 years. If he confess, then he gets 8 years. So confess is better, right? So, sorry, repeat. So, okay, now I'm the criminal. I'm the criminal A, right? I'm trying to reason. So if the other guy confess, it's better for me to confess, because if I'm not confessing, I'll get 20 years. If I confess, I only get 8 years. So confess is a better choice for me. Okay? Now the other situation, so the prisoner B does not confess. Okay? And then what happened to me? So I have two choices, not confess or confess. If I do not confess, I get 6 months. Right? But however, if I confess, I get 0. I go out free. So again, confess is a better choice. Right? Are you with me? Okay, so I'm going to repeat this in words at next slide. Right? Okay, so here's how criminal A reasons. if criminal B confesses, then it is better for A to confess because he gets 8 years instead of getting 20. Okay. Now, if he doesn't confess, then it's better for A to confess too, because getting free is better than stay 6 months in jail, right? So no matter what B does, for A, confess is better. Okay. Right. So no matter which choices B makes, it is better for A to confess. So this is the strategy that will maximize the payoff in either case. So this strategy is a special. So we call it dominant strategy. Okay. So is it clear? The analysis. Okay. So of course, the other guy will have the same, because he is also rational. So he will think along the same line. So he will think the same way, right? And okay, so by being completely rational and focusing only on maximize the payoff for each player, so the outcome is both will confess, right? The result is they all get 8 years. Okay. So I didn't mention, but you can see this is, if you have this dominant strategy. So dominant strategy means look at the first row, right? The first row, this entry for player A, this entry is bigger than this. This entry is bigger than that. So therefore, the first row completely dominates the second row, right? So for player A, the first row is better. Now for player B, he look at the columns. Now the exact situation happens because it's symmetric. So for B, he will choose the dominant column, which is this one, right? So in the end, they will choose confess, confess. They will get here, right? So now I want to say, because of the dominance, obviously, this is in Nash equilibrium. Because if you move away, you get worse. This is just, our analysis just said that, right? Because, for example, if player A, if Mr. A change, then he get worse. If player B change, he also get worse, right? So this position is in Nash equilibrium. Okay, so come back here. So now, although the top corner is in Nash equilibrium, it turns out if neither of them confess, then they will get an even better payoff. So here, this position is special. This is Nash equilibrium here. But however, if both of them choose here, right? If prisoner A does not confess, prisoner B does not confess, actually this payoff is better than that, because both of them get only 6 months, right? So this is an example where Nash equilibrium is not optimal. Although I didn't define optimal, but in this example, it's quite clear that this thing is better than that. Okay, so so here, come back. So the problem for them is the lack of communication, right? Because in order to get the better payoff, you have to trust the other guy also refuse to confess, right? So because of lack of communication, any rational people will choose the confess. Is this okay? So we see another example. In that example, there's only one Nash equilibrium. There's a dominant strategy. And the Nash equilibrium is not the optimal, right? So that's the prisoner's dilemma. Okay. So the next two examples, actually, they are essentially the same as this prisoner's dilemma, but we put them into different stories. So they look different, but the mathematics behind them are the same. They all fall into this category, right? Remember we say we are going to talk about the variations of the same theme. They are all AA, BC, and so on and so forth, right? So the next two examples, actually, they all follow this order. And the prisoner's dilemma follows this order. A is minus 8, right? And D is minus half, right? And B is 0, and C is minus 20. Okay. So the other two examples I'm going to give you, actually also it's the same thing, but we don't call it prisoners. So we call it something else. Okay. Okay. So the example is called arm race. Okay. So it has the same situation. Okay. So now let's look at this payoff. So there's nation A and nation B, and actually now it's very easy to identify two nations that. Okay. Anyway, so the nation A and nation B. Each has a choice, arm or disarm. Okay. So the payoff are like this. If both of them arm, they'll get So they'll get 2-2, or just get some payoff. Okay. Now, if one country choose arm, the other one choose disarm, and then the guy who armed himself will have advantage, right? His reward become 4, and the other guy is getting worse. The other guy is 1, getting payoff 1. Okay. The same happened in this situation. If nation A decide to disarm and nation B decide to arm, and then nation B will get advantage, he'll get 4, and nation A will get 1. Okay? Now, however, if both of them decide disarm, actually they get better reward, right? They can save money to do other things, right? So they'll get 3-3. So this is the payoff. Now, the analysis of this game is exactly as analysis of prisoner's dilemma, because you see we have a dominant strategy. So for okay, well, okay, let's repeat the same reason, right? So the nation A will reason as follows. Okay, there are two possibilities for B. If B arms, okay, now it's better for me to arm, because if B arms, if I don't arm, I get 1. If I arm, I get 2. So I should arm, right? And if B disarms, if I disarm, I get 3. But if I arm, I get 4. So I should also arm, right? So the first row completely dominate the second row, right? Like 2 is bigger than 1, 4 bigger than 3. So for nation A, arm is a dominant strategy. So he definitely will choose arm. And same for B, right? So B will choose, so the first column dominate the second column, so therefore B will also choose arm. So both of them will definitely choose arm and arm. And the same reason tells us this is in Nash equilibrium. And also the optimal choice actually is this, 3-3. Okay, so the dominant strategy for A is to arm, even though they benefit more if both of them are disarmed. So again, the situation is the issue. Why don't they choose disarm? Because of lack of trust, right? So that's why for okay, whatever. Right. So this is the same game, but put in a different storyline. Right? Let's do one more. Again, same game, put in a different storyline. Okay, so this advertising. So you have companies A and B, so they can choose whether they advertise or not advertise. So the payoff is like this. So if both of them advertise, the payoff is 5-5 for each of them. Okay. Now, if one guy choose advertise, the other one choose not, and then the guy who choose advertise will dominate the market, right? So he will get a big reward, like 13. Right? These numbers are not important, just some number. And the other guy will get some very bad results, so he get -2, for example. Okay. Now, if both of them decide not to advertise, then the payoff is 8-8, right? So they save some money, and then they do business as usual. So therefore, they get 8-8. So here's the payoff, and the reasoning. So this is exactly the same game, because the first row again dominates the second row, right? So that we are going to. Well, I will not do the same reasoning 3 times, right? So you know what happens. So in this case, again, we have a dominant strategy for company A. Advertise is a dominant strategy. For company B, advertise is also the dominant strategy. So they are going to choose add, right? So this is a Nash equilibrium, but the optimal point is 8-8, right? So the same story. Okay, so here we see some stories where the dominant strategy exists. If dominant strategy exists, life is easier. So we just choose a dominant strategy. But obviously, not every game has a dominant strategy. So we'll see what we'll do if there's no clear dominant strategy. Okay. So last variation in this theme. Okay, so the storyline is called a stag hunt, right? So it says Russell described this. So he is a famous writer in America, right? I mean, in the 19th century world. Right? Okay, so the storyline is 2 individuals go out on a hunt. So each can individually choose to hunt a stag, a deer, right? A deer or a hare, or a rabbit. So each player must choose an action without knowing the other one's choice, right? So if an individual hunts a stag, they must have the cooperation of their partners, because it's difficult to catch a deer. So you need both of them target the deer. But an individual can get a hare by himself. But a hare, somehow, the reward is less. Okay? So that's the storyline. Okay, so although this is an artificial story, it is said that this is a useful analogy for social cooperation, such as international agreements on climate, whatever. So there are some applications. Okay, so now here's a payoff. So we have 2 hunters, hunter A, hunter B. Now the strategy, the moves they can make is either they choose to hunt a deer or a rabbit, a stag or a hare. So the payoff, if both of them choose stag, they'll get a bigger reward, like 2-2. Well, you can change it to 2,000, 2,000. Never mind, it's the same. Now, if hunter 1 decide to hunt stag, hunter B decide to hunt hare, then B will get reward, right? B will get reward 1, but A will get nothing, because it takes 2 people's effort to get the deer, right? So therefore, A gets 0, but B gets 1. Same situation happened here. So if B decide to hunt stag and A decide to hunt hare, then A get his reward, but B get nothing. Okay. Now if both of them hunt hare, then each one of them get a small piece of meat, right? So you'll get 1 and 1. So that's the payoff. Okay. So now the claim is there are actually 2 Nash equilibrium, right? So if both of them cooperates, if suppose you are at 2-2, I claim nobody wants to move away. This situation is quite obvious, right? Because suppose we are here at 2-2, the hunter A will not change his mind, because if he changes his mind, he'll get less. He'll get 1. The reward is 1, right? And the same for hunter B, right? Because the same reason, it's symmetric, right? So if hunter B changes his mind, then he'll get 1 instead of 2, right? So this 2-2 is Nash equilibrium, right? Nobody want to move away from this position. Now, this 1-1 is also equilibrium, because nobody wants to move away. Because, for example, suppose we are here at 1-1. Does player A want to move away? Because if he moves away, the other one remains, then he get nothing. Because it takes 2 persons' effort to get stack. The other one chasing the hare, right? So he doesn't want to move away, and the same for B, right? So we have 2 equilibriums, right? So one is at 2-2, the other one is 1-1. Okay, so this is different from prisoner's dilemma. So this is a different variation. Unlike the arm race, the arm race is really the same game in different storyline. But this is a different, because the equilibrium are different and so on and so forth. Right? And also in prisoner's dilemma, that we see the Nash equilibrium is not optimal. In this example, in the stack hunt, one of the Nash equilibrium is the optimal. The 2-2 is the optimal. So these 2 games are different. Okay, so let's take a break. So here, so this is the end of the first group of examples. So where we talk about variable sum games, and we give lots of examples about Nash equilibrium, and something about strategy, like if there's a dominant strategy, we should take it. Okay, so let's continue. But before we continue, I have to explain, respond to some queries. So one query is about dominant strategy. I mentioned it quite a number of times, but I didn't define it, right? But from the example, you see what it is. So the dominant strategy actually is a strategy. So let's look at a more general situation. So I have a player 1, player 2. So in general, I could have a payoff matrix like this. So player 2 has like n moves, right? S1, S2, and so it possibly has n moves. Player 1 possibly have, well, in general, it could be m moves. I don't care. So player 1 has bunch of strategies. Player 2 has bunch of strategies. Now, when we use the word dominant, we describe a strategy. So, for example, we suppose the payoff. So, suppose this is S, I don't know, S5. Let's say it's S5. So, what is the meaning of for player 1? S5 is a dominant strategy. I'm trying to explain this. Right? So as the name suggests, you take any entry here. So each entry, player 1 will get a payoff, right? So player 1 will get, maybe he'll get 3 here, and player 2, I don't care. Right? from player one point of view, I don't care whether he lose or he. So now all I care is I compare my payoff with other strategies, right? So here S5 is one of my possible strategy. So I want to compare if I change it to S1, do I get better? So suppose I change to S1, I get worse, right? So again, for player 2, I don't care, right? So now you compare the S5. So suppose here is S whatever, SK. So if this number, if 5K, the payoff P of 5K is bigger than any other payoff here. Suppose here you get 1, here you get 0, here you get 2 again, here you get, I don't know, 0.5. Suppose you compare this entry with all other entries. This entry is bigger, okay? So, and this happened to every entry here. For example, against player 2's last move, suppose here's payoff is 4, and all the other entries are less than or equal to 4, right? So this is less than or equal to 4, this is less than or equal to 4, and so this happened everywhere, and then this S5 is dominant, right? Because no matter what player 2 does, as far as player 1 is concerned, he is better, right? So this strategy is the dominant, is one of the dominant strategies. Maybe I shouldn't use too general. So let's look at the example. So the example I give you is what? -8 minus, okay, so -8 here. Change it. Okay, so let's look at one example. The example of the prisoner's dilemma. So the payoff for player 1, for the criminal one, okay, player 1, is -8 minus 8 and 0 something. And here, here is -20. And here is -half, right? -half. Okay, so this is the payoff matrix for criminal A. Okay. Now I want to say this: the strategy confess is the dominant strategy. Why? Because here is the reward is bigger, right? So this strategy, in this column, his reward is bigger. So this entry is bigger than that entry. Similarly, this entry is bigger than or equal to that entry, right? So it's consistently at every possible entry, the first strategy gets better reward than the second strategy. So that's why this first strategy is the dominant strategy. Am I clear for this? Freddy, are you okay? So the dominant means his reward, if he play this strategy, his reward is always bigger than other strategies. Okay, so dominant is described as strategy. Okay. Now the related question is the equilibrium. Equilibrium is not referred to a strategy. It refers to a profile. So for example, this -8 is an equilibrium because both criminal A and criminal B does not want to move away. Right. So the equilibrium is talking about this entry, this position. It doesn't talk about a line or a column. You just talk about one spot. Right? Nobody wants to move away from the spot. So strategy and, dominant strategy, domination and equilibrium are talking about same thing, it seems to me. Right? I don't know whether it answers your question. Okay, so anyway, if you have more questions, you can ask me later. Okay, another important correction actually is somebody point out here there is a stupid mistake. This knot, it should not be there. So mixed strategy means strategies does involve probability. So when this is a mistake, so should cross off this. I'll correct it and re-upload. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so we can continue, right? So now we move on to the topic of zero-sum games. Right, so we finished this. Okay, so now we want to move on to another group, another family of games called the zero-sum game. So the definition is, as the name suggests, right? So the sum of the payoff for the two players is 0 in each entry. Okay. So in zero-sum case, the payoff can be simplified. So because I know the total sum of the payoff is 0. So if I know player 1's payoff, player 2's payoff is the opposite. If player 1 is 1, player 2 is -1. Right? So I can have a simplified payoff matrix. Right? Okay, so in zero-sum case, some book simply use a payoff for player 1 and completely omit the payoff for player 2. Right? This is reasonable. For example, for the matching pennies, the payoff matrix, instead of having 1, -1, I just have 1. I just record the payoff for player 1. Right? So this will, it looks more like a matrix. Okay. Okay, but some of you may say that this is ambiguous, but if necessary, we'll write the full matrix. Okay. So let's look at some examples of these zero-sum games. Okay, so now so we have two mineral water company, X and Y. So they have fixed cost of 5,000 per month. So they compete for the same market, whatever. Okay, so then they must decide whether to charge $1 or $2 per bottle. Okay, so there are two companies selling water. The possible moves are $1 or $2. Okay, so if they sell $2, the 5,000 bottle can be sold. Okay, so the revenue is 10K. Okay, and if they charge cheaper, they can sell more bottles, right? So they can sell this. So the revenue is 10K. If they charge at the same price, then they split the market. Okay. If both of them charge $2, so each one of them will sell 2,500. Okay, and similarly for this. Now suppose A charges more than B, then B gets the whole market and A gets nothing. Okay, so the payoff will be the revenue minus 5,000. So to minus 5,000 is just to make it zero-sum. Otherwise, it's okay. So in any case, this is something called constant sum game. So each entry, if you add the the total payoff, you get the same constant. Okay. Well, so the payoff looks like this. So if both of them charge the same price, they get 5,000. Both of them get 5,000. But since we take away 5,000, it'll become 0, 0. Okay. Now, if one company charge $1, the other one charge $2, and then this company will get 5,000. The other one gets 0, but he has a cost of 5,000, so he loses 5,000. So the same for here, and the story for if they charge, both of them charge $2, $2, you get the same. Okay, so this is we set up a zero-sum game like this. Okay, so in simplified form, you get, okay, you only look at player one's payoff, right? So this here is 0. At $1, $2 situation, he get 5,000. At $2, $1 situation, he get minus 5,000. The other one is 0. Okay, so the payoff is like this. The simplified is like that. Okay, so now how do people reason? Okay, so for each of the available strategies, we have to determine the worst possible payoff. Sorry, here are the general analysis of situations. Okay, so for each of your available strategy, you have to determine the worst possible payoff. I will look at the example in a moment, but these are the guiding principles. Okay, so after that, you have to pick a strategy that maximizes your worst payoff. Right? That is the strategy which is safer. Right? Okay, so in other words, you choose a strategy which gives the best worst payoff. Okay, what does it mean? So now here. Now in the example, here's how company X reasons. If I sell for $1, my worst payoff is 0. If I sell for $2, my worst payoff is minus 5,000. So here are the two worst payoffs. I choose the best among the two. 0 is better, right? So X will pick $1. Sorry, let me go back to the payoff here. So this is the matrix. Now here's X reasons. Suppose I choose $1, right? Now what is the worst payoff I can get? So if I choose $1, the worst one I can get is 0, right? Because, right? Now if I choose $2, which is the worst one? The worst one I get is minus 5,000, right? So I have two strategies. I analyze, I get two worst possible payoffs. One is 0, the other one is minus 5,000. And then player one will choose the strategy which maximize the worst payoff. So which will maximize this, so we'll get 0. Okay, so X will choose this $1. Okay? So X will pick to sell for $1. Now likewise for company Y, because here the matrix is completely symmetric. So both will end selling at $1. Okay. So the strategy profile, this 1-1, is called a saddle point of the game. I will define saddle point in a moment. Okay. So this is another important concept. It's like the dominant strategy. Okay. So what is a saddle? Why it is called a saddle? So mathematically, a saddle point on the surface is a point. Okay, so it's like this. It's like a saddle. Okay, so it's a point here, this point, which is minimal in one direction. So it's minimal in one direction. and maximal in another perpendicular direction, right? So this guy is minimal in this direction, right? And at the same time, he is maximal in the other direction. Okay. So this is called the saddle point. Okay. Now, let's go back to the example. So use a zero-sum game payoff matrix. Like let's look at this example. So in this matrix, an entry is a saddle point if it is simultaneously a minimum in a row and maximum in a column. What does it mean? Okay, so let's see. So here, for example, let's look at the second row here first. So in the second row, the minimum is minus 5,000, right? But he is not the maximum of this column. So this minimum of the row is not the maximum column. So this position is not a saddle point. Now how about this position, this 1? So 1 is the minimum of the first row, right? Because 0 is less than or equal to 5,000. But at the same time, he is the maximum of this column, right? He is bigger than minus 5,000. So this is a saddle point. Okay. In this direction, he is minimum, but in the other direction is maximum. Okay? So you are with me, right? So why do we care about saddle point? Actually, for him, this is the minimum of the. So the 0 for player 1 is the best worst scenario, right? Now for player 2, actually his reward is the opposite, right? For him, 0 is still 0, but his reward actually is 5,000. So therefore the maximum, because it's zero-sum game, the minus for player 1 actually is the plus for player 2. So therefore the saddle point become interesting. Okay. Anyway, so I hope I explained what saddle point is, right? So let me repeat this again. So in the tutorial, you are going to decide some saddle point. So let's say it again. So the saddle point is a point where it is a minimum in a row, at the same time is a maximum in a column. Okay. So at saddle points, no player wants to change, right? It is an equilibrium. So this is what I said, because if player 1 change, he'll go down. He'll get worse. For player 2, if player 2 change, okay, on the matrix, he gets more. But this is not his payoff. This is his opponent payoff. So if he moves away, he gets minus 5,000. So therefore, player 2 will not want to move away, right? So a saddle point is definitely an equilibrium. Okay. So let's make some observations on saddle points. So saddle points may not be unique. For example, in this, so let's see. So here I have a matrix, payoff matrix. This is in a simplified form. So the entry here is the payoff for player 1. Okay. So the payoff for player 2, for example, here is minus 2. Here is minus 1, minus 1, 1, 0, 1. Right? You know the other. Okay, so where are the saddle points? Okay? So the saddle point is the minimum of a row. At the same time, is the maximum of the column. Right? Okay, so let's try. So look at the first row. There are two minimums, right? this one is a minimal, this one is a minimal. Okay? So now look at this one. Is this number 1 at the same time a maximal of this column? Yes, right? Because nobody is bigger than him, so he is maximal. Okay? So this entry is the minimum of first row. At the same time, is a maximum of the column. So this entry is a saddle point. Okay? Now how about this one? This is also a minimal in the first row. Is he a maximum of this column? Yes. So this is also a saddle point. Okay? Now let's look at second row. Okay, the second row, there are 2 minimal again. So here -1 is a minimal. The other -1 is a minimal. Right? Now is this -1 at the same time is a maximum of this column? No, no. So this is not a saddle point. How about this guy? This -1. So he's a minimum here, but is he a maximum? No, no. So this is not a saddle point. Okay? Now let's look at the third row. So the third row, there are 2 minimum, right? This one, that one. Okay, look at this one here. Is he a maximum of this column? Yes. Right, same reason. So this is also a saddle point. Now how about the last entry here? So this one is the minimum here, and at the same time he's a maximum. Right? So this is also a saddle point. So there are 4 saddle points, which are the 4 ones. Okay? So this is an example that you have more than 1 saddle points. And some game have no saddle point. Right? For example, let's look at this payoff. Let's try to find the saddle point. Right? Look at first row. What is the minimum? Here, -1 is a minimum, right? Now, is this -1 the maximum of this column? No. So this -1 is not a saddle point. Okay. Look at second row. What is the minimal? 1 here. This is a minimal. Is he a maximum in this column? No, 2 is bigger. So this is not a saddle point. Okay? Now look at last row. Where's the minimal? Here. -1 is a minimal. Is he the maximum of this? No, because 2 is bigger. So he is not a saddle point. So in this matrix, there's no saddle point. Okay? So similarly for this matching pennies, this game also have no saddle points. You see here, what is the minimum of first row? -1. Is he the maximum of column? No, right? So this is not a saddle point. Look at second row. The -1 again is a minimum, but it's not a maximum of the first column. So this -1 is not a saddle point. So there's no saddle point. Okay? So I guess I will not, we have seen too many games. So I will stop here for today. On Friday, we are going to see what happens if, I'll start from this slides. We'll see what we'll do in this situation. Okay. So I'll stop here for today.